Welcome to the Left Behind Game Club. This week we play To the Moon. And this is why I'm a soft boy. And then afterwards they go through life together.
Can I inject you with some testosterone or something?
I don't know. I need help.
I feel like your hormones are off a little bit.
Embarrassing us, Jacob.
Do I need beta blockers?
Pull together.
Okay.
Pull it together.
Okay.
We may
I'm
need
going to look at you in the face. Okay, we're there.
You're listening to the Left Behind Game Club.
Welcome to the Left Behind Game Club, our never-ending attempt to make sure that no game is left behind. I'm our host, Jacob McCourt, and with me I have two friends. My first friend is Mike Ruffolo.
I'm excited to talk about a game.
I'm here to talk about good games. I don't know about you.
I'm here to talk about a game.
Oh boy. And then my second friend is Moe Murtadi.
Let's chat.
Great. So today we're talking about To the Moon, which is one of my picks. I get 2 picks in a row. I actually get 3 picks in a row, which is great. Mike, do you maybe want to talk about this game?
The time of reckoning is near.
I don't think I got
We're
any
gonna be
picks
playing
for a while.
Skyrim and Coder and all these big RPGs, and I can see the tears welling up in your eyes right now, but they're coming.
It hurts.
They're coming.
They're so long.
Yes. But before that, let's talk about To the Moon, a game created by Freebird Games out of Toronto, Ontario, Canada, a local game. And it is a game about...
Wait. I can't wait till you try to explain this game, because I attempted it once this past weekend, and I failed like 3 times trying to explain it. And I was like, you know what? Just listen to our podcast.
I actually want to hear you try and explain it 3 times.
You explain. You try.
Okay,
you go for
I'll give it a shot.
We'll each try.
Okay, I'll give it a shot. So essentially you're playing to start off, you are 2 scientists those are the people you play as, and it's like a top view game, kind of like Gen 1 Zelda, that I guess are like the Pokemon style view of games on the Game Boys. And you kind of learn new things as you go. So what happens is you show up to this house, there's some old man dying in a room upstairs, and you go talk to him, and you're like, hey, yeah, we're from this academy or this department from the science place, and they're expecting you.
I'm surprised people don't know what you're talking about when you give them this explanation.
Because literally, no. So anyways, they're like, hey, yeah, look, we're here to help you out. And then you realize they apparently what they do is they offer a service to like people that are dying. This is from my understanding. And what they do is they kind of go into your brain, go through your memories, and change your memories based off of a wish that you might have to do or what you want to do. That way, in your brain, as you're dying, you fulfill whatever dream that you've tried to accomplish, and they'll help you accomplish that in your head. So the premise of the game is you go through this guy's memories to help him fulfill his longtime dream of going to the moon. That's all you kind of know, and that's kind of where you start off.
I like the back half of that explanation.
The back half is I would definitely take that.
Got lost in the weeds a bit there, but
we got a little lost in the forest. But when we came out the other side, there's a treasure chest.
Yeah, you know what's crazy? I actually read throughout this entire game, which is it's a struggle for me, because whenever we play those like any type of like first person shooter or third person shooter with Spec Ops, our last podcast, check it out if you haven't. I kind of skip through any dialogue. I'm like, let me just shoot things or let me just solve puzzles. But I actually did kind of eventually read through it.
Well, I think you have to, because that's kind of the meat in this game. Mike, do you want to try and explain this game?
So I just want to comment first on Mo's thing. I was about halfway through the game, or a little bit shy of halfway through, and it just struck me like, oh no, Mo's going to hate this. Oh no, Mo's going to hate this.
I had that
you
same
have to
moment.
Read, and there's no shooting.
You know what's funny? I had that same moment for myself, thinking about you guys, thinking about that. Because halfway through, I'm like, oh my god, you guys are probably so stressed.
But you know
right
what
now.
you did? So we have a chat between us, but our rule is that we usually never talk about the game, because we like to save our impressions for like in the rawest
hot
form,
takes.
hottest takes.
Don't talk about the
Hottest
podcast
reactions.
until
But
now.
Mo messaged me and said you went through about half an hour of the game, right?
Yeah.
And what did you say to me in chat? You're like, man, this is crazy,
No,
right?
I think I kept it as ambiguous as possible. I said, I'm only 30 minutes in, but oh boy.
Oh, I thought that was positive. Is your oh boy not positive?
We'll find out right now.
Okay, so let me
Try and explain.
Let me get to the explanation.
Okay.
So you play as a pair of scientists who go to end-of-life patients and rewrite their memories. And the patient that this game is the focus of is an old man who's a widower whose dream is to get to the moon. And you don't know why, and it seems a little bit crazy. There are some odd circumstances when you get there. But over the course of the game, you slowly hop back through time and learn more and more of his story and figure out why he ultimately wants to get to the moon.
That's the game right there.
That's the game.
So yeah, it was released in 2011. It's available on PC, Mac, Linux, Android, iOS. Interestingly enough, it was made in RPG Maker.
I was going to say.
Yeah. They made that thing in RPG Maker.
Okay.
Except the Android and iOS ports. I think they might have ported it to Unity for that.
Okay.
Because the iOS and Android ports only came out, I want to say, this year.
See, when I was looking at the credits, I didn't see RPG Maker, so I was like, oh, so this is maybe not an RPG Maker game, but it looks a lot like one.
How did you play it?
So I played it on Steam on my MacBook Air.
Mo?
On Steam, thanks to Jacob for a free code.
Mm-hmm. I back when I was buying Humble Bundles like a beast.
Right.
That's how I got this game, and then an additional code for Mo, and I played it as well on my PC thanks to a Steam code.
Mm-hmm. It's a steal. I've seen this game on sale at very low prices, always sub $5.
Mm-hmm.
And for that price, it's not a bad way to spend 4 hours.
Oh boy. We're really going to get into it here, aren't we?
Are we going to get into it?
I think so. Because
okay.
I already
I'm rolling
feel...
up the sleeves.
Okay. So should we start at the beginning of the game?
First impression, or maybe what did you guys feel as soon as you started it? And like for me, the beginning of the game was when like the first time you hear that like music that goes throughout the entire game, the kids playing the piano.
For River.
Yeah. That was originally what it was called, I think. And then it was called... Oh, spoiler alert. Everything we're going to say from moving forward is a complete spoiler to the game To the Moon. I want to say I recommend you play it. I don't know about these guys.
Yeah, because this game is essentially all story, there's not, I don't think, much use in playing the game after you listen to this podcast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so pause it right now. Fire it up. I think it's like a 4-hour game or so for most of us, and then come back here and join in the fun.
And if you are struggling financially, there are playthroughs online where a lot of men, Markiplier, PewDiePie, they all love to cry and play this game, which is...
Soft boys.
I cried. I'm a soft boy. I cried my eyes out. But beginning of the game.
Okay.
You
can see the tears in your eyes right now.
This game like destroyed me.
Really?
Just absolutely destroyed everything about
Initially,
me.
like right away?
There was about three places where I cried.
Okay, we need to know every single moment as we go.
I think I cried with the horse riding.
Okay.
Just because it was like so cute and adorable. The twist, the reason for beta blockers. Which we'll get into in a bit. And then obviously the last scene, 4 times.
So many tears.
The first meeting between River and Johnny,
Uh-huh.
And then the final scene I was crying too. So
see,
I'm a
cried
soft
for
boy.
a different reason.
Why did you cry?
Because it was painful to hear some of the dialogue in the game.
Ooh, from a writing perspective?
From a writing perspective.
Okay. How so? Like, explain it.
So, one of the things that I consistently found throughout the game, and maybe we're jumping a little bit ahead, but I might as well say it now. While I think the storytelling was done very well, it picked the right times to hop back, to reveal some information. I found a lot of the dialogue between people to be... It sounded like it was from the same person. The characters didn't seem like they had their own distinct voices for the most part. And I think most of the characters spoke in a way I've never heard people speak to each other before. It didn't seem like natural conversation amongst people in the situations that they would be in. Mm-hmm. And the way that they structured sentences also didn't seem like it was a native English speaker that was writing it, you know?
Oh.
So...
I followed along pretty well. I liked it, I guess. It was. I know what you're saying though. Like some of the stuff they like. So the main two characters you're kind of playing along. You kind of play as one of them all the time, but they both talk to each other throughout. Mm-hmm. They're kind of always like ripping on each other and like joking about like going through some person's memories and pretending like they don't care because they're so seasoned into this field and they've always seen people's memories. But There was the one part when they do the Dragon Ball Z reference.
Amazing.
And I knew, like, I was sold.
I knew I was going to love that.
So to show you to explain to you why that even applies to this game. So the premise is when you go through into these memories, you're kind of placed into, like, I guess a scene of, like, the guy that you're dealing with memory, and you're in a situation where you're kind of trying to discover 5 objects in the area, and those things are like memoirs or things that connect the next memory that you're going to be jumping to.
Because ultimately they have to go back to the earliest memory to implant this desire to go to the moon.
It's like Inception.
To rewrite the history of their memories.
Yeah.
And the only way they can do that is by finding links between different memories.
Yeah,
so they can hop
have to
further and further back.
So they have to solidify the scene that they're in. So there are 19 different scenes that you go back through. So they need object to solidify themselves, and then they need an object that links one memory to another. So you basically solidify the scene and then find the thing that links you so you can move backwards.
Yeah, and the part where you're collecting each little object, you're kind of like collecting gems or like power-ups, and each time you collect one, you get like a attack on the main memory item, and it cracks every time you hit it. So as you're hitting it, it's like splash, 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 and then the one guy references the Kamehameha, and he goes Kame, and then eventually his partner's like hurry up, and cracks it over, and he's like, how dare you? You never Kamehameha block.
Yeah, it was Dr. Neil Watts is the male doctor, and Dr. Ava Rosalene is the female doctor. She's more dry, just like, hey, let's get this done. And Dr. Neil Watts,
she's more professional.
Yeah, and he's not professional at all.
Right.
He's like a wacky sidekick almost, right?
To me, he struck me as your average gamer. Someone who is a little bit more lighthearted and not taking it too seriously. I want to stress that I think, the storytelling was done well. My issue is really with the dialogue. Because Dr. Neil Watt, I think, has a great progression throughout the game. He starts out not treating any of the people in the memories that he engages with as if they're real people. And when his partner goes to say, why are you being such a dick? And he says, they're not real. They're not real people. I don't need to. But
the memories are not real.
Exactly.
This is a simulated memory. Why do we care about it? Kind of.
Yeah. But you notice by the end of the game, it doesn't matter to him that they're not real people.
He's invested.
That they're memories. He treats them as if they're people. So I think there are some. I think the storytelling's done well. I think there's good character development. I think the actual dialogue between people is like robotic and stifled, and it sounds like one voice trying to speak from different perspectives, which is not really what you want to hear when it's a game that's primarily about dialogue and storytelling.
So I had a moment in the game where I had a moment like that where I was taken out because the dialogue was so weird, and it was actually a scene between 2 kids, and they were talking in a bedroom. And for me, the thing that struck me is I'm like, a 7 or 8 year old wouldn't talk like this. Some of the vocabulary and the way they were talking, and again, this game is all dialogue and story, so that's why we pick apart these little aspects of it. But some of the vocabulary they're using and the way you talk, and you don't talk like that when you're 8, and also when you're talking to another kid. If you're talking to an adult, that's one thing.
Especially your brother.
I gotta chime in. I don't think it's completely just story, because you guys know me in terms of what kind of games I like. If it's just story, I probably won't like the game. There was just enough unique gameplay / different things to do. Perfect example, in each of those memories, you have to solve the grid puzzle. I guess that's the best way to call it. That if you're listening to this podcast so far, you probably went through it too. But each level has that little puzzle. That was just enough to be, hey, this isn't part of the story. This is me just solving a challenge. Hey, great. And that's what I love about games: solving puzzles, challenges, all that stuff. When you crack the bubble with the 5 memory orbs, you then get to activate the item. And by activating it, there's a grid puzzle, and some tiles are flipped and some tiles aren't, and you need to get all of the tiles flipped to face it before you can travel back to the last memory. Yeah, that was entertaining enough. By the way, I noticed after the 3rd one, if you started with a diagonal flip, you solved every single one on rapid fire. Yeah, it was so almost all of them were I think I got stuck on the 2nd one, and I kept restarting. I'm like, why am I not figuring this out? And then I'm like, oh, you could restart them. I know. I just Alt F4. You could restart them. Alt F4. Oh, okay. Because there was a quick save that I guess was pretty quick. You save scummed. Yeah, Alt F4 to always. You save scummed to the moon. No, so I like that. And then even like for example, when you mentioned the horse race, I guess.
Mm-hmm. It was so adorable! My God, they were so cute.
I was such a soft boy.
I'm such a soft boy. It was so awesome.
Yeah, so you go from like just walking around the entire game, and now you get to ride a horse super fast, and that was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. So I guess when you enter the memory for the first time, so as you said before, Johnny Wiles is on his deathbed. He has a keeper. What would you call that?
Yeah,
like a
caretaker.
A caretaker. There you go. With their 2 kids in the house
And the doctor.
and the 2 doctors. So they activate their dream machine. They enter his dreams, and the first scene. And I don't think we have to go through every single scene because some of them are just there to set up a specific thing. But the first scene is the yellow and blue rabbit. Probably for the first 2 or 3, it's just like, yo, there are white rabbits in origami throughout this whole house.
Mm-hmm. And they do really good creepy music.
Yes.
When they show those.
Mm-hmm.
When there are these moments that are like, this is a mystery, they do good creepy music.
Mm-hmm.
And they transition the theme song from River's song, or a song for River. I'm blanking.
I think it's called Four River.
Four River.
As someone who's been playing the soundtrack nonstop for the past 3 days, I can tell you it's Four River.
So they transition Four River into a creepy version and then a creepy song.
Mm-hmm.
I think really well. I think it's one of the better points in the game.
The music.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoy the music.
I never got tired of it, which is weird because like you hear it the entire time. It's just like a nice piano piece where it's kind of like soothing, I guess.
And they bag on it in the game. A lot of characters keep mentioning it's a little repetitive for me. And you know, it was repetitive, but I enjoyed it. It was soothing. My dad came up and heard it, and he's like, "Are you trying to meditate or something?" And, no, I was trying to play the game. But usually a game like this, without any voice acting, you know, with a repetitive theme song, I'm usually putting a podcast on in the background or listening to a new album or something. Mm-hmm. But in this game, I just listened to the soundtrack.
That would be such a shame if you listen to a podcast throughout this, because there are very few games where I'm like, especially like, because you would call this like, this is Earthbound-esque for anyone that's not seen it. Like, it's top down, 16-bit. There's not much to it graphically. So you might be inclined to be like, oh, I'm going to throw on a podcast and whatever. But I think the music is one of the best parts of this game.
Sorry, I didn't catch you. You guys all played on the computer?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How did you move your character?
That was a little bit frustrating.
Mike is rolling his eyes.
Here we go. Because I think I'm going to say something after you. How did you move?
I alternated between clicking on my trackpad and using the arrow keys.
Okay, and then...
I was all clicking.
Yeah, I was all clicking, and I was getting kind of annoyed, like, almost 3/4 of the way through. And then there's that... I can't remember which one it was. It's like, hey, you can use arrow keys or...
It's when
the zombies?
Dr. Yeah, Dr. Eva is trying to keep you from unraveling.
No. This is whack-a-mole. He's right. Because that's when the instructions pop up on screen and says you can pick whichever one, and it says clicking is recommended or whatever it was. So after that point, I just quickly reached over to the arrows, and I realized you can move the arrows. That's so much more convenient. If you haven't played the game, I'd say arrows more than anything.
And I would say you shouldn't use arrows.
Really?
Because with the cursor, when you scroll over certain items, you get that little magnifying glass, or you get the hand.
Okay.
And that gives you a clue to be like, oh, this is a memento that I can grab either to move forward, or it's one of the pieces that I ground myself in this memory with.
And this is why I use both. Because one, you want to, like you said, have that cursor over everything. Yeah. Because on its base level, it's an adventure game. It's a point-and-click adventure game where you're finding items, collecting them,
solving puzzles,
solving a puzzle. Sometimes it's environmental. Most of the time, it's
eventually
not.
You even start shooting objects.
Yeah, you shoot trees at people.
Yeah, you shoot trees
as zombies.
But the way the environment is designed. Through most of the outdoor levels or outdoor areas, which is a good chunk of the game, I found like grossly frustrating.
Yep.
Because there are, while it's not visually distinct, there are plants and little hedges and ferns
and also
rocks.
Elevation changes too, right?
That don't look very distinct and will prevent you from walking. Mm-hmm. So in those cases, anytime I was outdoors, I used the mouse to click where I wanted to go, because then your character auto-paths to that location. But when you are indoors, it's just much more natural to use the arrow keys to get where you need to go.
Yeah, I point and click the entire time. And then when I had the option, I used it maybe a little bit, but then I remember myself clicking to kind of find objects to click.
So going back to the story of the game. The first couple scenes just kind of sets the tone. Basically saying like Johnny is sad because his wife just passed away. It was interesting to have the game go in reverse. So Johnny's wife passes away, and then it goes to I think the first two scenes his wife passed away, and then after that he's at her grave, and then after that he sees her on her deathbed. And I think the thing that we should talk up to is probably like, please take care of Anya. And we don't know who Anya is for the first, like 2/3, maybe the first half of the game. We don't know who Anya is. So we're like, who's Anya? How did you feel about the setup of like this very sad start? His wife is dead. He doesn't know why there are all these rabbits around. And then there's this beautiful lighthouse.
I'm a big fan of nonlinear storytelling. I enjoy mystery throughout. I just didn't find that the mysteries that they were setting up, I had any vested interest in like solving. Like there was no desire for me to like, oh, I really need to know what's up with all these like folded paper rabbits. And like, I didn't have any vested desire in knowing like what was up with the lighthouse. Nothing about it was like super compelling to me. Like, oh, I need to figure this out. The only thing I kind of cared about was, why does he want to go to the moon? And the little like narrative MacGuffins that they set up that allow you to fall back through the story and solve little mysteries never really helped me figure out why I wanted to go to the moon. So I just didn't care about them so much. And I realized that's probably where our experiences differed, because I think you needed to really buy into that to have a real tie to the story. And
when you say buy into that, what do you mean exactly?
I mean, buy into like wanting to know who Anya was and why these folded paper rabbits were everywhere, and why there was one that was blue and yellow and not the same as the others, and why there was this platypus doll. Like ultimately these things they existed in the story for me. And when it was initially set up, it was like, it's really not that crazy of a thing. Like, I wouldn't buy a character being really invested in trying to solve that issue or that mystery. And if I empathized and put myself in that situation, there's no way I would have cared. It's like the thing that matters is getting this guy the memory that he needs on his deathbed. Yeah. And not solving why there's folded rabbits.
You thought it was just sweet and innocent, right?
Sure,
like it was a sweet, innocent, like old man, give him his last desire kind of story, not like, hey, there's an actual reason why he wants to go to the moon and we don't know what it is yet. Yeah, no, like with those objects, just not to really jump or anything, but the pickle juice jar, that's one of the common items that you have to find in each scene. Every time I saw it, and I think there's actually one of the characters actually mentioned it, like, what's the big deal with all this pickle juice? And I was like, yeah, I'm not the only one that's taking this. Thanks, character in the game. Thank you for acknowledging my mystery. And then I didn't, just like Mike, I really just didn't care about the mystery, but it was also swirling in my head. Okay, these have to mean something. And then later on, it kind of completes the. Because they don't really allude to like a bigger, like, I don't know if you guys thought that, oh, this origami, like, is she a serial killer that got killed? Like, I know how you thought about Gone Home, like, oh, I'm going to get murdered. Did you have a thought of like,
especially hey, the creepy music? The
creepy music. Did you think, Mo, that there was something else going on? Like hey, River's a serial killer. Hey, he killed her. Like, did you think something like that could happen?
I thought like she had some kind of like, so just when you start noticing the paper things, and then even like the communication, how she was. I think it's when you jump to the scene with the parents and they're talking about her and how she's different. I was like, okay, she's definitely has some kind of like social disorder, or like maybe she's autistic and just later on was diagnosed. So that's what I was kind of struggling. Like maybe it's something like that, like just social disorder of some kind.
Yeah, and I think when you go to the doctor's office, you definitely find out that she has pervasive developmental disorders, which is on the autism spectrum.
Oh, was it?
Yes.
Okay. Because when they said that, I'm like, oh, I've never heard of that. But now I'm smart.
I think it's something, and this is after I did a lot of research. So my cousin has autism. He has Asperger's. But I guess this can kind of be, again, I'm not a doctor, so I don't want to pretend like I am. But I guess that this is on the spectrum, and it's so unique because in most cases, there's no one warning sign, and also it can be diagnosed very late in life, which is what happened to River. She was diagnosed very late in life.
Yeah, and River, once again, is I guess
It's his wife.
Yeah, life partner.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout, and they've met all the way from the beginning, and that's where you kind of slowly follow the path towards it. This is an influential person in his life,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going through his memories, but she's a huge part of it in each single memory.
She's a major
Yeah.
thread.
Just because we were talking about the condition, I didn't really fully understand it because they kind of they touch it left and right with in different
They
ways.
dance.
It wasn't until the movie theater scene, which is way later on. So you realize you go flashback all the way to the first date, and the first date is with her, and you just see your character, Johnny. He's like, oh, she's not here. I'm so upset. He walks outside of the movie theater, and he's like, she didn't show up kind of thing. That's the kind of the emotion they kind of convey.
Mm-hmm.
Stood up.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden she walks out of the movie, like the movie he was in. She's like, hey, like, why did you leave? And he's like, what do you mean, why did I leave? You weren't even in there. And she's like, yeah, I was. We were watching the movie.
Together.
And you realize
Oh.
she was in there watching the movie, like probably by herself, but in her mind she's thinking, hey, like, we were together in the movie. We're watching
both
the
in
same movie.
room watching
Yeah.
the movie.
And to him, he's like, we weren't, I didn't even know you were in there. And she kind of could not understand, like, his confusion, and he couldn't understand that she didn't understand why he really was so upset because like they were in the same movie theater together.
I thought that was one of the many memorable scenes in the game.
Yeah.
There were some really funny, like, good memorable scenes
Yeah.
throughout.
Do you want to maybe go over one of your favorites?
So when you get to the end and you realize that, and sorry, by the end I mean as
end?
far back as you can in terms of memory before you break through the beta blocker section.
Before you realize that there's something wrong.
Yeah.
Where it's cloudy and you're like, we can't go any further
we can't
back.
get even further than that. You start implementing, your memory implanting, and then you go to his most recent memory and you realize nothing's changed. And Neil, your partner, decides to go pretty intense with the trying to implant memories.
The NASA thing?
Just to emphasize it. So as they're going back through the memories, the goal was to send him to the moon. So the thought process was, hey, let's convince him to be an astronaut when he's super young, and then he'll go through life making decisions to become an astronaut and fulfill his dream.
Because
that's the tactic.
They very much said, like, this is a business. He is dying. It is not our job to make this amazingly perfect. It is our job to get him to the end. So if we need to do it by cheap tactics because he's almost dead, like, we'll do it.
Contractually, we have to do it. And the whole time, you can kind of, if you press the start button or any button, you see his heartbeat because he's actually dying and you're in his memory. And once again, like Jacob said, there's a contract, get him to the moon, and their tactic
That's their job. That's it.
So the section that I'm specifically talking about is you have no control, but it shows Neil hopping from memory to memory, hijacking different moments in Johnny's life, like the school assembly.
Yeah.
And he's like, and I'm from NASA, and you, young sir, even you can be an astronaut.
And he points
He's like,
at
but I don't
John.
want to be one. He's like, are you sure? Because you could go to the moon.
They add like
Oh, it was the
posters
best.
across the
I
movie.
thought that was funny.
They changed the poster in the movie theater to make the movie actually called To the Moon. They just to make him go there, and for some reason, he doesn't want to go to the moon.
There was two spots that I got that same kind of feeling, and it was a very like anime kind of feeling. And I say that because I remember like in Dragon Ball Z, like who's the turtle man on the eye? Master Roshi. I feel like Master Roshi in Dragon Ball Z has had those moments where he's like trying to be a fan and he's like doing the quick movements. It just reminded me a lot of like Japanese cartoons in those sections, especially when they did you saw the circle wipes, right? In those two, in that, and then also when they made him eat a bunch of those pickled, I think they were pickled olives at the bar. She made him eat a bunch of them, didn't disable his taste, so he hates olives. He's like, I gotta eat all these olives, because he had to try and get like memories out of Johnny to be able to move the story backwards.
Because there weren't enough objects in the room to use.
Exactly. So he had to eat pickled olives and bond with Johnny to try and get more memories out of him. And in those two instances, it was very much like super well written Dr. Neil Watts, just being a goofy guy, and those circle wipes. And it just reminded me a lot of Dragon Ball Z.
I get what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Mo, what was one of your favorite little moments in the game? Maybe not without going to the end, because I feel like we should save that to the end.
Not to be like simple or anything, but just those puzzles in general, like just to move through. It gave me something to do in between the story, and like, once again, if it was just a story, I wouldn't have probably liked or continued even playing the game, to be honest. But that's pretty much it. I'll come back to it, and like kind of if I think of a specific time, but Kamehameha was a golden moment.
You know what I loved? I loved the wedding day, but more the moment between Johnny and River when they were in the top of the lighthouse.
And they dance.
And they were having their dance. And I just remember it because it was perfect. Because you know how you think to yourself, like, this is us. We're in the lighthouse. It's romantic. It's going to be perfect. And, like, sorry, I watched too many Nicholas Sparks movies, but, like, it's never perfect, ever.
Soft boy.
I'm a soft boy. And they're up in the lighthouse. They're dancing. And then one of them trips and just goes, "Oh, my ass." And that's literally the line in the game. And I was, like, smiling from ear to ear. Because I'm like, that is, like you said, some of the writing components of the writing, there maybe are issues with them. I had my issues myself. But, like, the little moments, I feel like those ones he nailed. And by he, I mean Ken and also Freebird, who did the whole game. They nailed it.
Yeah, I think I'll say it again. I think the storytelling was done pretty well. And there were some clear moments between characters that seemed genuine. Mm-hmm. But I found for the most part, the characters weren't extremely distinct. And they didn't interact with each other in a natural way. Yeah,
because I don't know if you remember, but Isabel and the best friends, Isabel and what was the male best friend's name? Nicholas. Those were, like, kind of forgettable characters.
Yeah. Like, I think the only thing that I gained about Isabel is that she was also on the spectrum somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Which is how they kind of sympathized with each other and bonded. Yeah. Should we move to kind of...
We should get to the actual, like...
The meat of this?
Yeah, so essentially, let's just wrap it up. They kept trying to get him to go to the moon by becoming an astronaut, make him watch movies, a bunch of stuff, and they realized nothing is happening because they originally got to the farthest back in his memory, but it wasn't far enough. But they made the decision, hey, this is far enough. Let's kind of start implanting right here.
And they blame the software at first. Yeah, they're like, the engineers, they screwed up.
Yeah, it's not going back. We're like, we have a blackout. We can't go past this point. Let's just do it here. We'll get it done, like, no matter what. And
damn coders.
Yeah. Hey, watch your mouth. No, so anyway, so they realize, hey, this is not working. Like, they have to go back. They have to figure it out. And they're like, you know what? Let's just jump around. Let's go back to, like, back to the house, I guess?
Yeah.
And let's talk to the engineers. And
yeah, they're in a white space. And then you can see the next memory, which is like...
But it's blocked.
There's a space, so they actually can't physically access it. So they go back, they try and, like, incept the memory. It's not working. So they say to themselves, hey, we have to go further back.
Yeah, we have to figure out what's going on. And you kind of are left to kind of roam, I guess. And until you realize that, hey, there's been some undisclosed supplementation that Johnny eventually started taking to suppress a memory. Mm-hmm. And from my understanding, they finally, like, figure out how to get through them. They did something to the...
I don't remember what they did to, like, get past and get to the next memory.
They made a fix or something.
So what they did was they realized that the strongest thing that revives memories, the strongest sense, is scent. And the furthest back memory that they could go naturally was to a scene that had roadkill. And as your character's out by the road, they have this revelation. And so you go to the car, you grab a jar, you stuff some of the roadkill into it, and you bring it back into the house.
Yeah.
And you tell the doctor who's watching over your dying patient, we're going to go in, and then as soon as we get in and go to this last memory, we want you to open up the jar and put it under his nose. And so when he smells it, it'll bring him right back to that fateful moment and day.
Which is, the roadkill is from the first scene in the game when they just run over a rabbit, and you're like, what the heck? Why is this here? But now we know why.
It goes full circle. And then eventually they break through to the original memory. Mm-hmm. You break through and you're in, like, some kind of childhood. There's kids playing. It's Johnny as he's playing.
And Neil Watt makes a comment. Look, the time distortion here is insane. He's everywhere.
Yeah,
he's all over the place.
Because you see him appearing in different parts of this scene. Like, he's kind of like a shadow here. He's playing on the road here. He's everywhere for some reason. And then you see a mother of some sort leaving the house. Mm-hmm. And as she's leaving the house, she gets into a car. As she's getting into a car, Johnny is jumping around and goes in the back of the car, and bam.
It's not Joe. It's not Johnny.
It's
his twin brother, Joey. What?
Dun, dun, dun.
So you realize that Joey,
Soap operas.
his twin brother that you just kind of didn't know about, and you thought originally that because Johnny was referred to as Joey in like previous memories.
Yes.
And you realize, hey,
That was my grandfather's nickname.
yeah, that wasn't like a thing.
No, your mommy's like thinking about your twin brother that
And
she killed.
and she's going
Can't
a
deal
little,
with what
yeah,
she's
exactly. So
she
you
loved him more.
So you kind of see the memory. It's your twin brother that was like everything that you loved in your life is now dead on the side of the road, and that was the memory that was being suppressed.
Did you guys find the breadcrumbs throughout? Because I know, I think Dr. Rosalene at multiple points like hints to, hey, do you realize what's going on here? Because I think she knew that there was a twin brother before the revelation happened. Because she was hinting, because there was bunk beds.
Yeah, that was the only hint, though, that I think she gives.
She leaves. She says it afterwards. She's like, didn't you realize there was like bunk beds?
And I feel like she also said, like when Dr. Neil Watts said, hey, there's time distortion, I think she also made a comment to the effect of, oh, it's not time distortion, or like something like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but that's when we discover
Gotcha.
that he has a twin brother that has now been killed. Yikes. So then you go back, and in these scenes starting to go back, you now have a twin brother, Joey, who you experience life with.
Mm-hmm.
So how many memories are past that? There's only 2 or 3, I think. There's like memories in school, and then the carnival, which is kind of the thing.
Yeah, the carnival is kind of what connects the previous and the future together.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get into this one. So you go to this carnival. There's a bunch of little games. Like there's whack-a-mole that you get to play, which is a new game mechanic, and it's just like whack-a-mole that you're thinking of right now listening to this.
What was your rating? How did you do?
I think at like 92%, like 39 out of 42 or something.
44 or 45, 95%.
I was 97. It was 97. I was 97 too.
Yeah.
No, I was 95.
I was 97. How does that work? Maybe I'm wrong. But either way, like...
You guys both did great. You guys are both
thanks.
great at this game.
Can you pat me on the head for that?
No, I can't reach. It might distort the audio. Okay, there you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, no, so you're going through this carnival with your little brother, and he's having fun, you're having fun, and then doesn't Johnny decide, hey, I'm gonna like just go off for a bit, and he goes like up this mountain and sits up and starts staring at the stars, and you're all sitting there. This is like when you're the youngest you've ever been. You're just looking at the stars, and sure enough, who just pops up behind you? It's River.
It's River.
And she's like, hey, you're in my spot. And he's like, oh, no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do this, blah, blah, blah. And that's like where they kind of first meet. And they start talking about, hey, like, what do you think the stars are up there? And he's like, oh, I think they're balls of gas, like the whole Pumbaa thing from Lion King. And then she's like, oh, no, I think they're probably like lighthouses that are connecting from like all the other lighthouses.
And doesn't she say facts throughout? Like in one of the earlier memories, she talks about lighthouses and how many lighthouses there are and the type of lenses they use. Like she's very into them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
she's very she loves detail.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of like the connection. You're like, oh, okay, this is where they met originally, even though they were just kids. And later on, like they start dating, they get married, and the whole story kind of comes together from this point. But if you guys forgot, the goal was to get him to the moon. It has nothing to do with this. We have to get the client to the moon.
Until, right? But we have to figure out why he wants to go to the moon so much. And so there's the scene where they're looking at the stars together, and she says, "Can you see the constellation?" And he's like, "I don't know. I don't see it." He's like, "Is that what you're looking at? The moon?" She's like, "Think bigger. Think here's the rabbit." And he's like, "Oh, I see it now. There's the face, there's the feet, and the full moon is the belly of the rabbit."
Yeah.
Which is why he's so interested in going to the moon.
Well, not even that wasn't actually it, because like you're close, you're almost there. So she says, "Hey, look at this." They finally both see a rabbit in the sky, and the moon's part of it. And then he shows her the platypus that was in the bag,
Right.
and he's leaving. He's like, "Oh, you can have that. I can always get another one." She's like, "Oh, thank you." So she keeps the platypus, which is part of her life moving forward.
Great symbolism, by the way.
And then
Is it platypus of what?
Platypus doesn't quite fit, doesn't quite belong.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It's not quite a duck. It's not quite a mammal.
Oh, I thought you were saying like, oh, that's why it's there and throughout the whole thing. No, you're saying symbolism of a platypus.
Exactly.
Oh.
Yeah. And then he's like, "Oh." Then as he's like walking away, she's like, "Oh, like I think they're like, oh, I'll see you like next time like here." And she's like, "Oh, what if you don't?" He's like, "Don't worry, we'll just meet on the moon."
That's what it
That
is.
was
Yeah.
the thing. He's like, it just as like a joke as he's running past, like, because they were just talking about it. I'll just meet you on the moon. And then fast forward, like, whatever, probably 60, 70 years from that point. That's why the original comment was made, hey, take me to the moon, because he wants to meet River.
Yeah.
Because she's waiting for him there because she passed away.
But the thing that's incredibly sad, and the reason why I was so emotionally devastated, is because you start to put things together and you go, hey, she said meet me here next year and we'll look at the moon together, and you realize that, hey, Johnny's mom gave him beta blockers so he couldn't even remember to go there. So they try and like date. He approaches her like in the hallway. And she's just very like defensive towards him, and throughout, because she has Asperger's, because she's on the autism spectrum, she didn't tell Johnny about their first meeting, and he didn't remember it
because he has the blockers.
Oh,
He just
I didn't even think that she definitely remembers, because it's
she
stated
100%
throughout
did.
that she has an insane memory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But the whole time she was trying to like jostle his memory. She'd cut her hair. She would craft the paper bunnies. That's why the yellow and blue bunnies, her dress was yellow and blue the night they met. Like it's so sad that their whole life like was a lie. And I don't know if you noticed this, but one of the first scenes, like he basically said like, I'm sorry, I don't remember, but we never know what it's really about. It's like,
Gotcha.
I don't remember our
clicked.
first meeting.
Yeah, and because when she was talking about the rabbit, when she first made it for him, she was like, "What did it look like?" And he's like, "Oh, it had like feet, it had legs." And she's like, "What else? What else?" Because she remembered the conversation of what else when she was looking at the moon, but he couldn't remember like this.
I didn't
the
piece
what
that
else
together.
Yeah,
And all that she wanted him to say was, and he's got a big belly
Just like the moon.
like this, like the moon. Ah!
but she couldn't, and she obviously couldn't understand why he can't remember.
Oh.
So she's like, not resentful, but she's just like, "Hey, like, how do you not remember?"
Right.
And she'll never bring it up because that's just the way she is.
And so his whole life he had this guilt, and especially when she died, he was like, I don't know why I have to go to the moon, but like, I have to go to the moon.
Yeah. When you go farther back from that, sorry, Jacob's bawling his eyes out here.
It's so sad.
You're gonna be fine. You'll be fine.
It started out as a joke, me crying, but I actually might cry now.
So
You broke me.
we're gonna have to take a break here, folks. Just kidding. No, when you go back even further to the point when they're in the bedroom together, Joey and Johnny, they talk about like, because Johnny's like he keeps getting toys. Joey's like the popular one out of the twins. Like he always gets things for him. And
Mommy's favorite.
Yeah, and he's mommy's favorite, and he always gets like toys and things. And Joey's like, oh, don't worry, one day I'm gonna be. Does he say a writer? Because I kind of like looked away for a second.
Yeah, he said a writer.
And he says, oh, what's mine is yours, the whole shebang. And then is this when they make the decision? Hey, we're gonna save Joey's life because he can't meet River, because River's the reason why he doesn't want to go to the moon. Or he doesn't want to change his mind. He wants to live his whole life taking care of her and not doing anything else.
Here's where the game unexpectedly kind of takes a detour. I love where it goes, but after you figure out, like, doesn't that scene happen, and then you're like, oh, now I have to figure out a way to go from here where hey, this is why he wants to go to the moon, because their first meeting was there. He has beta blockers. He doesn't know.
Yeah.
So the battle then between the two doctors is, how are we going to manifest his memory in the quickest, most efficient way possible?
Because once again, he's dying, and you have to get this memory completed before he dies. Because if he dies, then he didn't fulfill the contract.
They said you go to court, like they'll get sued for not fulfilling his final wish. So Dr. Neil Watts and Dr. Ava Rosalene, between the two of them, they both have different ideas about how they want to accomplish this, right?
Yeah. So is it Rosalene? Is that the?
Yeah.
She decides, you know what, we have to get rid of River. River has to get out of the picture because as he grows up, he makes decisions for River, like, hey, we'll get you the house, we'll get you whatever we need to do, we'll take care of you, we won't spend money, and that becomes his life goal, is to take care of her, not the moon. Because as they were trying to change his life, whenever they added any kind of influence, he always fell back to River, took care of her, so they realized they had to go further, and if she was gone, we can implant those same ideas, same thoughts, and he'll eventually get to the moon, which is his goal.
Yeah, because I think the hierarchy in his life was Anya, because River said Anya the lighthouse is more. Why did they call the lighthouse Anya?
I don't think it's really even that.
Idea.
That was. It's just that's part of the piece of the story that I don't think it's that important. They may have emphasized it too much early on.
Yeah, but either way, it's Anya is the most important thing. and then after that it's a river, and then he doesn't really take care of himself at all.
Exactly.
Or have his I don't even, does he have a job? Who knows?
I didn't know that. Actually, when I was telling my girlfriend the story, she's like, "What does he do? Like, where does he get all this money come from?" And I was like, "Oh, I have no idea."
I don't think they touched on it. It's not really that important, but it's like a weird, like, what does he do? Maybe he writes music. Who knows? But
Rosalene's like, "Hey, task is get rid of River," and then Dr. Watts is like, "What do you mean? That's the reason why he like."
Yeah,
he
we
wants
can't get rid of the reason why he wants to go to the moon.
Yeah, we're going off track. Like, this isn't going to work, blah, blah. And she's like, nope, just trust me. She just keeps saying, trust me. And you're just like, wait, like, what's going on? Why is everyone going crazy now? Now the guy that didn't care from the beginning, Dr. Watts, is the one that cares about Johnny. And Dr. Rosalene is acting all reckless and, like, doesn't care and just focused on a task. Mm-hmm. So they delete River, or they move River from his thoughts. So when he goes to ask her out, originally there's this one scene that you were in where you go and ask her out underneath like the staircase to go to the movies. They move her from that location in his memory, so when he goes there, she's not there. He doesn't end up asking her out.
And if he never asks her out, she's not in the picture.
Yeah, the movie theater scene doesn't happen. The carnival scene doesn't happen. Like, none of it happens. And he can focus on being an astronaut.
And everything is rewritten so that way, instead of those memories being him and River, it's him, his twin brother, and his best friend, Nicholas.
Yeah, and his twin brother eventually becomes a super famous writer.
But this is before the two doctors actually fight. And Dr. Rosalene uses the construct of Sigmund Corp's, like, dream machine. Eve, is that what it's called? Uses Eve against Dr. Watts to make sure that he doesn't get in her way. Yeah, she's like, this is the way it's done. She just let me do it.
She makes the executive decision, this is the way we're going to fulfill this task, and he's just not having it, so she keeps adding like blockers. And this is when like they introduce a very out of the blue game mechanic where you're playing, I guess, like the same like view, but you're able to. Was it trees that you're shooting?
Yep.
Yeah.
And there's like zombies, I guess, coming at you. And
zombie
versions of your partner.
Yeah, and she's coming at you to attack you, and you have to kind of dodge her. And there's like tiles where if you jumped on them, it's kind of like snakes and ladders. It shoots you back, and you're kind of navigating to the end of a hallway, which is I think in the school.
Yeah.
Which is another scene that you're in. So you're just kind of jumping around through the memories that you've already visited, but they're just distorted and like have just.
They're all mixed and matched.
Exactly.
So scenes that might have taken place in your house or in someone else's house or in a bar now take place in the confines of the school. And characters that might not be together are now overlapping. And you get to hear some interesting bits of dialogue and story told from them.
Yeah.
Some of the highlights.
Prompts to remind you, like, again, like, why this is all happening. And then you get to the end of the hallway, and that's when you realize that the change that she has made is that she has taken River out of the picture, but in its place, like you said, taken Joey, prevented him from being killed. And that's how, instead of focusing on River, you have your brother. Your main plan is the two of us. I want to be a writer. I want to be an astronaut, and they kind of hold each other to it.
Yeah. Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I kind of I probably was like checking Instagram while like one of the story was playing or anything. So I don't know what was going on.
You really hate reading.
No, man. It was just I think at this. Oh yeah. Actually, around this point, I can't pinpoint exactly what it was. It got to the point where I'm like, how is this story not done yet? Like, I don't care. care. And it was right before they added another like interactive mechanic of like shooting the trees. And I was like, oh, okay, I can get into this again. But no,
shooting things.
Yeah, literally. That's all I had to do.
Because you thought it was going to be done. Like, you're like, I know what the thing is.
Yeah, we got to the original thing. Like, let's just like chop. Let's go. Let's finish this up kind of thing. But
there was an extra hour in there that you didn't think it was going to be there, essentially, right?
Exactly. And initially, I was actually like at that point before like we kind of jumped through the shooting of the zombies. I was like, okay, well, I'm kind of over this game right now. I'm not going to like it, and like this is it. Like, you
didn't want to see the payoff?
I didn't care. I was like, this is going away. It was like, you know how...
No, you didn't care either, Mike?
I didn't care either.
Yeah, I'm like, why aren't we finishing this up already? But like, this all said, once we got closer to the end, I was like, okay, I'm okay that I went through, but I think it might have been a little bit too many filler.
So I think what you're saying is that I, as a sappy, what would you call me, a soft boy?
Soft boy.
Okay, as a soft boy, the payoff for me is like being emotionally devastated and then like being built back up to say like, hey, don't worry, this is how his dreams were actually fulfilled. But what you're saying is you appreciated the mystery to say like, why does he actually want to go to the moon? Is that why you like it? You're like
I'm
shrugging.
kind of meh about the game. Like, I love like romantic comedies and like chick flicks. Like, I like Serendipity. I like 500 Days of Summer. I like all of these films where like people are trying to get together and fall in love, and and there's things getting in the way, and then they figure out how to get through it. And this game didn't really like hit that for me.
You know what it was?
I'm kind of a soft boy too, but this game just didn't make me soft.
You named what? Serendipity, and then you named 500 Days of Summer, right?
Uh-huh.
I would go to a movie like Spectacular Now first.
Sure,
to me, that shows the difference between the two of us, because Serendipity is a little less emotionally devastating. Where I would also go to like Perks of Being a Wallflower, and that's not a movie at all about like being in love, but like I would see that instead. So I want to be emotionally devastated, and I feel like you want like a light and bubbly, like, hey, maybe this works out.
I didn't see Serendipity is.
I've not seen it. I've not seen Serendipity.
So then you can't talk about it. You can't do it.
Okay.
We can't talk about it because Serendipity
spoiler cast
is all like, I don't want to get into a movie discussion here because like so much of this game is ripped straight from Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Okay, yeah.
But the like Serendipity is all about how like they make this connection, and then in so many situations they just miss crossing paths. And it's such a tease, and it's so
like How I Met Your Mother as well. There's like 10 times where they cross paths, and almost okay, I understand.
I think this game could have been just as emotionally amazing for you, Jacob, and awesome if it was half the length. I thought there was a lot of filler that maybe didn't need to be there, and not to say that it was like bad or anything. There's some stuff that could have been left out, and I would have got the same amazing experience, but because it had that little extra length, I wasn't a huge fan, and the only reason I stuck around with it was because there was different ways to play the game later on that kept me, the simple gamer, entertained.
So I think what you're saying is you want the To the Moon movie, like anime movie, Ghibli movie.
Oh, it'd be great.
Yeah.
It'd be great.
You want that instead of the game.
I don't know. I like the game. But I feel like if it was half.
Do you like the game or you not like the game?
I like it.
Because I feel like you guys are like, whatever. But yeah, it's good.
No, I like the story. Kamehameha did a lot for me.
The little puzzle elements did a lot for you.
One DBZ reference and Moe's in.
That's all you need to do. You can have gone home if like literally someone was charged up to Super Saiyan and that's it for no random reason, or there's a picture of Goku somewhere. I would have given it 5 out of 5.
If in her locker in Gone Home there was a Goku or a Naruto poster or something, like that's it. Moe is in.
There was a Doctor Who reference too as well in this game.
There was,
yeah,
which I felt like they could have totally used some really good stuff when it got to the elevator scene, and they're like, oh man, these elevators are tiny, which like yeah they are. They only fit 4 people, but that is the perfect opportunity to say like, oh man, it's bigger on the inside.
So I guess I'll just talk about like the final sequence. You obviously like incept the hey, you don't see River now, Joey's back. So the whole thing is like he studies real hard, he goes I guess to a college, he starts writing letters to NASA. Joey becomes an author because he writes about Johnny's life trying to become an astronaut. Johnny becomes an astronaut, starts training, and you actually go through interactively through NASA.
The headquarters of some kind, or
the
a launch
headquarters.
pad or something.
Exactly, like, hey, here's Central Command, here's the centrifuge, here's where you'll train, and then you like go to the launch, and that's where you meet your female counterpart.
This is before the launch when you're walking around NASA, and he's like, "Oh, look, our other newest recruit." And the music hits, and River walks in. And she's another astronaut that followed the same path.
And then it cuts to the next scene where he's playing this piano song that he wrote for everyone.
It's for River!
And it's the song for River, but it's called To the Moon.
Oh my god, it's called To the Moon.
It's called To the Moon.
Oh, I'm gonna cry.
Sorry, we're gonna have to wait until Jacob's not a puddle on the floor.
Yeah, so
good.
And then Dr. Watts even asks Rosalene, he's like, hey, did you like plan to do this? And he's like, no, I had no idea. It just kind of worked out that they kind of, I guess, met each other again for the first time. And I'm assuming another part where you started bawling your eyes out, you sap, was
I'm kind of crying right now.
They're launching the spaceship into going to the moon, and as they're like launching up, they're sitting right next to each other.
And they hold hands.
And he sticks out his hand, and she sticks out hers, and they hold on to each other's hands. These strangers that now become love interests. Tune in next week on TMZ.
And then afterwards, they go through life together.
Can I inject you with some testosterone or something?
I don't know. I need help.
I feel like your hormones are off a little bit.
Embarrassing us, Jacob.
Do I need beta blockers?
Pull together.
Okay.
Pull it together.
Okay. I'm going to look at you in the face. Okay, we're there.
Go.
So I think the final scene, we did it. We're back. The final scene is the 2 doctors. They're on the bridge in the dream, and they're watching the takeoff, right?
Yeah.
And doesn't Dr. Watts like try and like get a little moment in there?
And then pushes him off.
It was like a very anime, like very cute, like.
You're right. That's a very anime
They reach
moment.
over my hand, and sorry, I kind of jumped when I said it. So as they're reaching each other's hand, as soon as they touched each other's hands, you hear a heartbeat, but it stops right after they touch their hands. So he fulfilled his dream of going to the moon, and now game over.
Okay, so then it what goes to credits?
Yeah, it goes to credits.
Okay, and then when the credits are done,
Didn't get there. I'll afford.
I figured you
What?
figured.
Of course, credits.
You stopped it?
Credits.
Marvel movies. Have they taught you nothing
Have
in
they taught you
2017?
nothing?
Have you seen the clips in the most recent Marvel movies? They're garbage. There's usually nothing.
Anyway, timeless evergreen.
Disney
content.
is trying to
Timeless evergreen
create
content.
Yes.
This is why I have the podcast, so I can listen to you guys that go on with the credits. What happened?
So after the credits, it's Dr. Neil Watt standing just outside the lighthouse.
Lifehouse, you mean that band?
That's it, that band. Show me the move. Yeah, that's it. And the lighthouse. And so similar to an earlier point in the film, or in the film.
Oh, you said
in
film.
the game.
It's a gilm. Okay.
Yeah, in the game when the memory was collapsing or the person was dying or there was some destabilization, the exact same thing happens at the end of the game with Dr. Neil Watt standing outside of this lighthouse, and which makes you think, wait, was all of this a dream? Was all of this a memory? Was this actually something that happened or didn't happen?
Yeah, because like you said, the screen beats red, and then he takes a painkiller. Like, it's literally the last frame. It goes red. He's right at the bottom of the screen. He's about to go off. Screen turns red. There's that heartbeat sound. He takes a painkiller, and then he just goes.
And then it says Game 1 or Episode 1 to the moon, and then there's a check mark that goes next to it. So there's got to be new games that come out in this series.
So the next game will be out by the time you hear this. It's called Finding Paradise.
Fantastic.
So if you're interested in this game series, you can check that out. It just came out in December of 2017. There's also 2 minisodes for the holidays, as well as a very interesting game that was put out that has 0 dialogue. It's about an hour long, called A Bird Story, which I'm not sure if it's directly tied to the series. I think it kind of fits in the universe, but doesn't directly tie to that. So I guess closing thoughts. Do you mind if I start?
Go for it.
Because I really loved.
You've been wanting to play it for a while.
I have been pushing for this game because I've owned it for a long time, and I don't know what caused me to say, like, hey, why? Because I even looked back and I Googled it, and like, I don't want to say there was fanfare for it. Like, a few people wrote about it, but I've always wanted to play it because it always looked very interesting. And I would say if watch the trailer, listen to the music, if that like gets you in, like if you like Chris Columbus movies. If you like after school specials, if you like anime and the dialogue, if you like Nicholas Sparks,
wide variety of interests,
if you like classical music, like if you like any of those things, or maybe 2 or more of those things, like this is the game for you. And we can debate about like, hey, is this a game?
It's a game.
Is that the official Mo? You said it's a game?
Yeah, it's a game.
Well, there you go. No debate needed.
Because there's something more than just a story.
There you go. I love this. You should play it. I'm sure it's going to be super cheap. So if you are like us, a patient gamer out there, this is something you should play. Mike, thoughts? Final.
It was definitely worth playing. I think the good outweigh the bad. I'm very excited to play the next episode in the series or the next game. See if some of the areas that I had issue with are resolved or improved upon. I think it was a worthwhile experience, especially for the price. You can get it for dirt cheap, and I suggest that you go and get it and play it. PC specs are low. You can play this, on a phone, and I enjoyed my time with it. I think it was maybe a little bit longer than I wanted it to be, but overall, I'd recommend it.
Yeah, and just on price, before I let Mo wrap it up here, I bought it for my brother for Christmas. It is, I think, in the US, $4.99 on iOS and Android. It's $9.99 normally on Steam, but as you know, especially going into the holidays or into summer, like you can get those games for very cheap.
Steam sales.
Mo?
Yeah. Jacob, you said like if you like this, and this, then play it. I say just play it regardless. Great story. Mechanics kind of change up a bit. If it's going to be at $2, $3 on Steam, it's like not even, it's a no-brainer. If you have the time and you just want kind of like a nice extra long movie, but you get to kind of do a couple things, solve a couple puzzles, grab it. And I'm not the type of person that play this type of game. Jacob, Mike, you know me as the the gamer that likes the first-person shooters, the AAA titles. This was worth it. This was worth my time. And I think if I didn't play it beforehand, I would have... if I didn't get such like a push from Jacob to even look at it, I would not have played it. I would have watched the trailer. I would have said nope. I would have saw a movie or opinion from someone. I would have said nope. But if you're that type of person, I say still pick it up.
Mm-hmm. You can find me on Twitter at RuffoloM and michaelruffolo.com. Jacob, where can the people find you at?
They can find me at jacobmccourt.com, at Jacob McCourt on everything. And if you want to watch the games being streamed that we play on the Left Behind Game Club, I play almost all of them at jacobstreams.com. I didn't stream this one because I was afraid for people to see me cry.
Don't be afraid.
Soft boy.
I'm the softest boy.
And Mo, where can people find you at?
Find me at Murtadi everywhere.
I want to have a big shout out to the country of Australia,
Hello, Mike.
the Thunder Down Under, for hitting us up the rankings. I think we were number 4 in gaming.
Yeah, we were number 3 for like 2 days in
That's
Australia
fantastic.
for
Yeah.
games and hobbies. So that was incredible.
So yeah, big shout outs to our fans in Australia. We'd love to hear from you. So reach out to us on Twitter at Left Behind Club, and you can email us your questions. Mo, what's the email?
Is it contact at Left Behind?
Nope, try again.
Nope.
Is it contact?
Nope.
Questions?
That's it. You got
The
it.
funny part is I made the email.
Do you remember what you wanted to call it?
I don't remember what I want to call it.
Do you remember what you wanted to call it?
I don't.
He wanted to call it Black Hole at Left Behind Game Club, and then we wanted to do Black Hole episodes of this show where we just answer all the questions.
Yeah. We see if there's light that makes it through that black hole.
Mm-hmm.
So Mo, what is the email that people can reach us at?
It's questions at leftbehindgame.club.
And so if you have any questions, comments, concerns, feedback, criticism, anything that you're interested in letting us know, shoot us a message there or on Twitter. We'll soon be launching our Facebook page, and then let us know. And then who knows? Maybe we'll read it on air. Maybe we'll talk about it.
No,
maybe.
we will. If you leave a 5-star review, you will get a shout out
Where
on
can they
air.
leave us a 5-star review, Mo?
On iTunes, on
Stitcher.
I think I even have a feature on the website. If you want to give us a 5-star there, do it up.
So we make it easy.
If I see your name and a 5-star rating, you're getting a shout out.
Fantastic. So if you want a shout out on the podcast, make sure you go to iTunes, give us a 5-star review, leave a little comment as to why people should be listening, and then tell a friend.
Yeah, and also if you cried during the game, just make sure and let us know too.
Yeah, and then don't be a soft boy. And then that, my friends, is one less game left behind.